Welcome back, Careblazers. In today's video, I want to talk about a type of living facility that somebody who is an older adult with or without dementia could go live if they needed assistance with their daily activities. The majority of older adults want to age at home. They want to die at home. That's where they want to receive their care. And the majority of family members want to be able to care for their loved ones at home. But for some people, that will not be possible. Most of us are familiar with assisted living facilities or memory care facilities or long-term care facilities, also known as nursing homes, as options where people can go stay and live. But there's another option that isn't really talked about a lot, and I want to bring it up here and go over some of the pros and cons. So this type of facility is called a group home, and it looks like a home that could be on your block. Here in the Phoenix area in Arizona, I don't have one on my street, but the homes on my street look like one of the group homes. I've been in many group homes in Arizona. They're just right alongside another regular home that you and I would live in. So they're basically homes. They are licensed by the state, and they provide the care that the person needs. Have you ever heard about a group home before? I'm actually curious. You can say yes or no in the comments. But one of the benefits to a group home is the staff to patient ratio. It's going to differ, obviously, based on the location. But typically speaking, the majority of the time, the staff to patient ratio in a group home is going to be much better than a staff to patient ratio in an assisted living or memory care facility. Usually in those facilities, they have a few amount of people caring for a lot of people. I just spent about 30 minutes online trying to find an easy database in Arizona of where I can see the staff to patient ratios in different clinics. That was extremely hard to find. But what I can tell you is about 2 weeks ago, I toured several skilled nursing facilities / long-term care facilities. And when I asked what the staff to patient ratio was, one of the facilities said 1:11, and the other two facilities said 1:12. And actually, one of the people said the staff to patient ratio is 1:12 when there are no call-offs, which tells me there's a lot of call-offs. So that's kind of a lot when you think about the care somebody with dementia typically needs. To have one staff member per 11 or 12 people, that's quite a lot. In fact, I was talking to a friend yesterday and she was telling me how her mom with early onset Alzheimer's was in a memory care facility and they had 10 people at that time. This was about 10 years ago, and they had a staff to patient ratio of 1:10. But her mom was not able to feed herself. And so before she and her father realized what was happening, her mom would get like a couple of bites of food, but this staff member had to go around and help like all 10 people at mealtime. So from the moment they recognized that, every meal, her father went and fed her mom. And when her father couldn't do it, she went and fed her mom. So even at a facility where you're paying right now, the average cost of a shared nursing home facility in the United States is somewhere around $120,000 a year. It's definitely six figures. I can't remember the exact number right now off the top of my head. That's a lot of money, but it still doesn't mean you might not have to provide care. Now, in a group home, the same is true. It doesn't mean you might not have to provide care, but the staff to patient ratio is usually somewhere more like 1:7, 1:8. Again, it varies. It depends on each facility. So you obviously want to check, but there's definitely more individualized attention in a group home. Also, because group homes are in a home, just like this could be a group home technically, it's more home-like. So rather than being more institution-like, it's more home-like. And you can have a shared room, you can have a private room. Obviously, private rooms will be more expensive, but there's a living room, there's a kitchen, dining room, and the individual rooms. So one of the perks, like I mentioned, is the staff to patient ratio tends to be better. Also, the food, of course, it depends and varies, but the food tends to be better. In fact, at many of the group homes I went and visited my patients in when I was seeing them, a lot of them, they would create their own home-cooked meals for lunch and dinner. And I'm talking, some of them were fantastic. Like I would walk in, I'd be like, oh my gosh, what are you guys cooking? This smells so good. And so it's different than the traditional cafeteria type regular foods in a lot of these group home settings. So if you were touring a group home and like looking at some of the questions you might want to ask them, I would definitely want to look at a menu or look at what they make, look at some of the food options they serve as part of your decision making. Now, one of the downsides is that they don't have medical staff on hand, technically. Like they're not going to have a medical doctor on hand. So depending on the health needs of your patient, that may or may not be something that's an option for you. They know how to get help. They're responsible for your loved one's overall health care, pass out medications, help them shower, help them bathe, help them dress, those kinds of things. But if you're somebody who's needing that really high level medical attention, is probably not a good fit for you. And in fact, you probably wouldn't be approved for the group home to begin with. There's an application for these homes, just like there's an application for an assisted living facility or a memory care facility. Some of the other things that stand out to me with group homes is that it just feels more homey because it technically is a home. For the holidays, it tends to feel more homey. Sometimes it's easier to make some more closer, intimate friends. And the big thing is price. So while the average cost of a typical long-term care facility in the United States is about six figures, currently in Arizona, as I have been looking into some options, for a shared room, it's around $3,000. And then for a private room, it's around $4,000 for a group home. So the price difference is quite significant. So I am curious if you've ever heard of a group home. Have you ever been in a group home? Definitely do your due diligence. They have to be licensed with the state. They have to follow certain guidelines, but this might be an option if you are somebody who really wants to keep your loved one at home, but you want to have a backup plan and you're concerned about maybe some of the larger institutions. Something else I didn't mention is that a lot of the long-term care facilities, they have wonderful activities departments and an activity coordinator, and they put on lots of groups and activities and fun things. In a group home, there's going to be less options for that. It doesn't mean that they don't have fun things you can do, like books. Some of the group homes, they used to take the people who wanted to, they would have trips to the casino nearby, or they'd have trips to the botanical gardens. Like they would do things like that, but that's going to vary by the group home. It's not like a standard thing where they would have those types of activities available. So like, for example, my dad would never do any of the group activities in a big facility. He's not going to go to bingo. He's not going to paint. He's not going to color, at least right now. And he's not really interested in anything like that. But he would be interested in sitting in a quiet room and just talking to somebody. So that a group home wouldn't be a problem for him. However, for somebody else who's really social, really wants to do a lot of things, a group home might not be a great fit. So that's what I have for you today. If you've ever heard of this type of facility or not, it might be something worth considering. Sending you all so much love. Apparently, so is Milo. Say hi, Milo. Bye.
Also, Nico gets a belly rub for every person who subscribes from this video. So if you haven't already, click the red subscribe button. It's totally free. And Nico says, thank you very much.